We're updating the Rangers team top prospect list this time around on the call up. Arm Layton, Jack McMullen. It's a little bit thinner of a system because they were buyers, and I admire it. I do. They didn't trade any of their top flight blue chip guys, but they did trade some arms. So some newcomers into the top 15, some climbers, some players that I think burst onto the scene that I'm excited to talk about. But the Ranger system always has pitching. I think since Chris Young took over, and there's plenty of arms that we're still going to talk about.
Yeah, 100%, man. And the thing for me too is like when you have so many arms like that, you need to have a couple of blue chip bats. They clearly have one of the bluest chip bats in Sebastian Walcott, but they have others as well. And there are some complementary pieces within this system. Like I look at a guy like Dylan Dreiling, who's a complementary piece. Abimelec Ortiz, he's been around forever. That probably speaks to how thin the prospect kind of grouping is for the Rangers, but Abimelec Ortiz been producing in the upper levels for a couple of years now. He's still a top 15 prospect. So there are enough complementary bats here to go along with the pitching, but they can buy bats. Like they bought Jock Peterson on a 2-year deal. And it's not Chris Young's fault that Jock Peterson was brutal this year. I think it's Jock Peterson's fault that Jock Peterson was brutal this year. So Chris Young puts them in a position to buy power. And the Rangers, in terms of bringing people in and having them watch on TV and listen on the radio, that allows them to buy power. If they can build pitching internally, that is the next step to sustainable success.
And I think they've done that. And we're going to talk about a lot of those arms and kind of what they did this past year to just elevate themselves. A couple that slid a bit, and we'll talk about that as well. But just kind of flying through the names to watch really quickly. Alorki Rodriguez, I thought turned in a really encouraging season and probably is pushing towards that top 15 with another just strong start to this upcoming year. He was the top prospect in their 2025 IFA class, outfielder / second base. I think they're trying to figure out where he's going to play defensively long-term, but $1.1 million payday. And he posted a 979 OPS in the DSL while walking more than he struck out. Like you walk more than you strike out and you put up big numbers in the DSL. We're going to be, a little bit more intrigued to see what you're going to do with the complex, especially when you are, a top guy in the IFA class. What I liked about him is he already can elevate the ball to the pull side. That's not usually an innate quality for a 17-year-old bat. I think there's a little bit more pop than the frame would suggest. So that's just a fun and intriguing player at 17 years old who had 6 homers, by the way, in the DSL, which is, I think a pretty strong, just mark to have out there.
That might be a DSL record here. The league leaders in the DSL in terms of homers is always like 8.
I know it's why Chris Rodriguez became such a big, like with the Tigers, such a crazy, encouraging, like, oh my gosh. And he's one of the biggest chases in Bowman Chrome. But by the way, Alorki is in it too. And he's got some autos in there as well. Josh Owens was a really interesting case as well. Like 2-way guy, potentially 3rd round in the 2025 draft this past year, $1.1 million deal though. So, over slot. It's a sidearm delivery as a pitcher, like crazy arm side run, fully sidearm in the low 90s with a gyro slider. I don't know though. Like it looks, I don't know. It's a little gimmicky, but he is throwing low 90s with a decent slider. So like maybe it works. Is it worth pursuing him as like a funky reliever to pair with a bat? I like the bat better. It's a left-handed swing with some loft and plenty of room for strength in the frame. I think he probably moves over to 3rd, but clearly has a plus arm at 3rd. Yeah. It's a fun project, but like, do you go deceptive reliever / 3rd baseman? Is that a thing?
So as someone that was begging for Reggie Crawford to become the Kyle Schwarber, Gregory Soto hybrid that we were forecasting, I would love that if he was like a situational lefty and he would come on and, get 2 outs in the 7th and you implement the Ohtani rule for this guy. But I don't know, like it's interesting to me. I feel like if you were to pursue that and they were relievers, you have to want that guy to finish the game. And I feel like you have to have closer type stuff to be able to be a reliever like that. You either have to be a starting pitcher and a short leash starting pitcher, or you have to be a legit closer. Yeah. Ohtani said last night after his start that he wants to be available in the bullpen moving forward. If he throws in game 6 or game 7, he's not throwing in the 7th inning. He's throwing in the 9th. I can promise you that. Like, he's trying to get the final out of the baseball game. I don't know. Like, the two-way player with the 7th inning type of upside just doesn't make much sense to me.
I'd rather focus on the bat that you have a left-handed stroke, again, could be a solid defender on the left side of the infield and just go from there. But regardless, you've got a really intriguing talent here in Josh Owens. Malcolm Moore fell big time. I think that was clear with the just rough pro debut he had. I saw better at bats in the Arizona Fall League, so that was encouraging. But we're talking about a bat first catcher who didn't hit this year. Taken out of Stanford, first round pick in 2024. There was a foul tip that kind of broke that broke his finger in April, and that may have affected him. People say, "Oh, broken finger." If it's in the right or wrong spot, depending on how you look at it, if it's in a bad spot, it's really hard to grip that bat properly and to impact the baseball, right? So I think that could have affected him. Also, just missing the time could have definitely affected him. But there's a lot of moving parts to his swing. The EVs were below average. They did make some changes to his swing to try to tone things down, and I think that also affected him some. So maybe it was just this adaptation year with injury. Let's just call it a lost season, and let's hope that, he can bounce back next year. But of course, that did affect his stock a little bit. I refuse to talk about Justin Foscue and Dustin Harris anymore, so we don't need to talk about them very much. Leandro Lopez, right-hander, let's say he elevated himself this year, signed in 2021 as an IFA guy. First several seasons were limited by injury, and then he really broke out in 2025. He nearly matched his career total in innings. With 101. He turned in a 2.40 ERA between high A and double A. It's an upper 80s cutter, which that pitch just seemed to have hitters totally off balance and just swinging, missing, and whatever it is just late bite to it. And I think that pitch alone, he can ride to just be cutter heavy and get guys out in the 6th or 7th inning. But then he's got a fastball that sits in the mid 90s. So I see a solid middle reliever, at least here with Leandro Lopez, but could be an interesting Swiss Army knife type of arm. So I thought that was just a fascinating guy that, elevated himself this year. And then Dalton Pence, left-hander, another interesting arm, 11th round in the 2024 draft. I think just showed some positive things this year. Low 90s fastball, but good characteristics. And I think a lot of projection given where his frame and his easy kind of delivery could be a, solid back into the rotation, type of arm.
You brother, just for the sake of the bid, I went back to look at Justin Foscue's 2025 season. It's just the same damn thing every single year in AAA. And is he good enough for the big leagues? I don't know. Maybe. It's not going to come with the Rangers. They've made that abundantly clear. He was 1 for 9 this year with Texas, and then he just rotted away for 100 games in Round Rock, and he did the same damn thing. It was like a 105 WRC plus. Didn't walk as much, but didn't punch out as much. Like, it's the most boring template ever. I'm so sorry, Justin Foscue, but it is so hard to just stomach like, hey, this is a legit prospect. It's like, no, he's AAA depth at this point for Texas, and he can be a prospect for somebody else.
I think he's a big league bat, like in some way. He definitely can be a short platoon, crushes lefties, he can get by at second, can play first. I keep joking with you. I'm like, this is the Marlins first base reclamation project this year. I sent you Jose Moreno. Maybe Justin Foscue makes some sense, but there's a lot of teams that I think could use him as just hey, let's try him out there and see what happens instead of just him chilling in AAA like he has for the Rangers. And I wonder with the Rule 5 aspect of things coming up and maybe some roster crunch, if they end up just trading him for a DSL flyer or something like that to clear up that 40 spot. But I think Foscue has earned the opportunity to play somewhere else and get a little bit more run there.
Yeah. I know you're going to take us to Dylan Dreiling in a moment, but I do want to tell you about one of the best places on planet Earth. And you're lucky because chances are if you live in a metropolitan area, you have one of these best places on Earth right near you. Lids is sneaky awesome. And can I tell you, all you got to do is send a simple text and you can make your Lids experience even better. All you got to do, text baseball, BASCBALL, baseball. That's how you spell baseball, to 29017 for 20% off your next Lids purchase. Again, baseball to 29017. Lids, like, you don't need a discount code to capitalize on that place because that place, again, is like it's little kid hype beast sports fan heaven, but it also happens to be like 30-year-old Jack heaven as well.
They got, so it was funny when we were just at the Bryce Cunningham signing and box break, and just we're chasing Bowman Chrome there. Of course, now I've been going to the lids even more so here at Boca to literally just go pick up cards because it's so much easier to buy Bowman Chrome and stuff like that, Topps Chrome there. But they've got the graphic tees too that are honestly pretty sweet. We've been on a graphic tees kick too. And if you, again, text baseball to 29017, also helps us, by the way, just texting that code, you get that 20% discount and you can use it whenever. That's it. All you got to do is just text that number. There's nothing else you got to do. But the graphic tees are pretty sweet. You can get 20% off hats, any merchandise or, hats, apparel, all that good stuff. Also keep an eye out. I think by the time you're listening to this, our video recapping the event will be out. We pulled a Chandler Simpson red auto out of 5 there. That was pretty fun. Rookie auto. We were chasing his teammates, Cunningham's teammates, but again, you'll take a Chandler Simpson red auto there. So great place for sports cards, great place for apparel and merchandise. And I know that again, the graphic tees are a big part of it now too, and those are really sweet across for like all different teams, theme stuff like that. All you gotta do is text baseball to 29017, and it helps us very much. And I think that only goes through the end of the month, so be sure to get that in.
Yep. Again, baseball 29017, 20% off your next purchase at Lids. So
I got the awesome opportunity to do color commentary in the Arizona Fall League, and it was funny. One of the games never ended. It was really entertaining, never ended. But in that game that I was doing, Dylan Dreiling put a swing on a ball that I didn't know Dylan Dreiling was capable of doing. And so when I saw that, like, okay, because I've been a little bit, I think, lower on Dreiling. I don't think anybody's pushing him that much higher than the top 15, but I think we skewed a little bit lower. It wasn't a great year, but the underlying data was solid. He was a second round pick in 2024. Obviously had some really good stretches in college and just good overall numbers in college. It was one of those guys where you look at like we talk about like Yohendrick Pinyango. No one compares to the data discrepancy with Pinyango and the actual production on the field, although he took a big step forward this year. And I think he will be protected from the Rule 5 draft. You'll see. This is another guy though, where you look at the data, it's like, okay, 88% in zone contact rate, EV90 at 104. Why didn't he hit well this year? And there's some other components to it. He doesn't recognize spin that well. The chase really balloons against secondaries. It's a swing that's kind of grooved for, yes, air pull, but almost too much to where he's rolling over and doesn't have much malleability. And I think that all those things limited him a little bit. And then he's also not the best defender in the world, so that weighs down the profile. But he's an above average runner. And I'm trying to find the exact specs on the home run that he hit when I want to say it was 114, like just on a line. And I just didn't really know he had that in him. It was 112, excuse me, left on left against Joe Ingracia, who's nasty, to be honest. And I was like, okay, on a literal laser beam, like on a pole. So I'm like, okay, there's more in there. And this is, I was talking about on the broadcast, he had like a 500 OPS against left-handed pitching this year, and then boom, rocket. So there's some encouraging aspects. He hits fastball as well. He clearly has the college track record, still just 22 years old, can run. There's potential for average hitting power. And if that's the case, then he could be a bulk platoon guy that, can play both corners. He swiped 15 bags. It just feels like nothing stands out, but maybe there's enough, that's okay or good that he can, put it all together and be an average regular.
So I can appreciate what you're saying on Dylan Dreiling. I can't appreciate what you said about long game, but fun. That was your first experience with a 3-hour, 32-minute game in which there were 22 combined hits, 28 combined punch-outs, and 15 combined walks. 12-11, Surprise got the win over Salt River.
How many errors? 6?
There were 5 errors. Surprise commit 3, Salt River committed 2. So now that you have sat in a booth for a 3-hour, 32-minute game in which there were more than 10 combined walks, can you empathize just a little bit?
No.
Come on.
Yes, when you were in Fort Wayne. No, yes. When you were getting those big league paychecks, buddy.
Sure. That's fine.
No, but yes, I can. It is a grind. And I do want to thank Jaden Taylor for giving me the opportunity to do that for a couple games. And it was so much fun. And I really did enjoy it. But it was when it was going into the wee hours there, and we had a pitcher come in, jog in from the bullpen, looking at his hand already, and just gets to the mound. Trainer meets him out there, and he just comes out.
That's
So
horrible.
and that was already when it was going wrong. Thank goodness he's okay,
bad.
so we can laugh about it. But like, that's when you have the guy come out and then another guy go in and warm up, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, he has as much time as he needs.
The old 2-out pitcher change too. Oh,
love those.
Yeah.
2 out, nobody on. Yep.
Oh,
time to get fresh arm in.
Oh, so yes, it was a lot of fun. But yes, now I can empathize with you, and I could feel you just rubbing your hands together like ha 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 when I was texting about it. Cause you're like, feel the pain, buddy.
Yeah, 100%.
It was enjoyable, and I hope to do it again next year at some point if I get the opportunity when I'm out there again. Thanks to Jaden Taylor for allowing me to get on the call there. I did miss being in a booth, and it was a lot of fun. Number 14, Rule 5 eligible guy, Cameron Cauley. I'm trying to remember where we had him last year. I think it was somewhere around the same range, maybe a little bit outside. This is an underrated player in the system because he did everything I think you wanted to see from him this year. Super tooled up, bloodlines. His father, played 3 years of pro in the White Sox system. He's a double plus runner who can play all over the diamond and is a plus defender. Like, I think he could play a really good shortstop. He can play all over the place. And then they started getting him more reps in center field, just saying, let's make you super utility. And with Cauley, it was, okay, there's a ton of swing and miss, and the approach wasn't great in the past. It's a lot better now. He's still just 22 years old, by the way. So, there's still more progress to be had if things continue to come along, maybe in the hit tool department. But he cut his strikeout rate down from last year. It was at 32%. He was hurt too, but in 64 games, 32%. This year, down to 25%. He increased his walk rate by 3 or 4%. And I think you saw 775 OPS between, I think was it all AA? I think it was all AA. So last year he struck out 31.5% of the time in high A. This year he cuts that down in AA and finished the year, by the way, with a 4-hit performance and two homers. Playing more center field, looking like he could be a good defender in center, a great defender at short, a plus runner, hits the ball in the air now, hit 16 homers. I love Cauley as this super utility guy. Even if the hit tool is 35, 40 grade, he's going to fill a big league role and I think surprise you with the WAR accumulation and even in a part-time role.
Dude, so there are very few things that get me as fired up as the second base, shortstop, center field guy that can play well at literally every spot. And I know errors are very standard, but only 5 errors and 45 starts at short. And then you had everywhere. And then you had 1 error and 25 starts at second. And then you had 2 errors and 42 starts in center. That is really, really good. And it's safe. It doesn't need to be overwhelmingly flashy. In center, it is going to be flashy because you mentioned he's a double plus runner. A 70 grade runner is always going to be fun to watch track baseballs down. But if he plays safe defense at second, short, and center, that is so much fun. And if he hits just a little bit, you can pallet a 30% K rate at the big league level when you have that much defensive value.
Look at Dylan Moore. That guy punched all the time. And I think that's the archetype that you're looking at. And I love Dylan Moore. These are the kind of players I would love to have in my organization. And what I like about a guy like Cauley is you can deploy him in positions for success to hit a little bit more. Okay, hard throwing righties, maybe not as much. Against lefties this past year in 136 plate appearance sample, he hit 330, 434, 522. So even if you got to stash him on the 40, maybe you got to rush him to the bigs a little bit to fill a role. This is a guy that I do think I would want to add to the 40 and maybe trade a Foscue to do that, because we saw Nazem Nunez get drafted or Rule 5 drafted and stashed. We've seen these types of players get picked, especially defensive oriented guys that honestly were shocking to get picked for us. I think for some of us. Who is it? Christian Cairo that got picked? Is that who it was?
Yeah, he got picked. By Atlanta, right?
I know he's a good defender, but come on. If those guys are getting picked, Cauley seems like a slam dunk. And then especially when you have a 956 OPS and a 20% K rate against lefties, you got this super utility guy that can go get lefties and can run. I think he would be one of my favorite Rule 5 targets if he's not protected. And that's why I think he will be protected.
Yeah.
I don't know why Abimelec Ortiz continues to just be neglected from top prospect lists as well. I understand that he's a first baseman who it's all about the bat, but dude, he rakes. He just continues to rake. He hits the living crap out of the ball. And in the second half of like every year, he just becomes a monster. And this past year, after the All-Star break, I'm putting the exact numbers after the All-Star break. So, yeah, second half here, 301, 380, 579 slash line with an 18.5% K rate and a 10% walk rate. 13 homers in those 55 games and a 54% hard hit rate. And just look at the swing. He gets it off, but he gets it off with 86% in zone contact rate.
Yeah.
He's a good hitter. And I don't see why this can't be at the very least, like a Dan Vogelbach type of player, which I know is not the sexiest in the world, but belongs in a top 15 in a system. If that's what like the I wouldn't say fallback is, but if that's what like the median outcome is.
Yeah. I look at what they're running out in terms of first base, even corner outfield. Like he can fill a corner outfield spot. He played over 20 games in the corner outfield this year between AA and AAA. He had a 950 OPS in his 40 games in Round Rock. Like you mentioned, that sample that you had in the second half, that is the best of his final push in AA and then the entirety of his AAA sample. And the entirety of his AAA sample was really good. Hit over 280, had a 950 OPS. I'm watching the Rangers be offensively lethargic for the last month and a half of the season, and they hit themselves out of the postseason picture. They pitched themselves into it. They like failed to hit themselves further into it. They were a bad offense. Jock Peterson was horrible this year. I understand Jock has one more year left on his deal. If you can get out of that, why can't Abimelec Ortiz be an upgrade for you? And he can effectively platoon with a Jake Berger. Like, that makes a lot of sense to me. They use the DH spot kind of interchangeably. Like Josh H. Smith is factored in there for opening day next year. That's not actually going to happen. But then you look at like what their other options at first base are, and it's like Ezekiel Durant. Just go with Ortiz at this point.
I agree. And especially if you shelter him from lefties against righties from July 1st onward, Ortiz hit 320, 390, 572, the 962 OPS, 10% walk rate, 16% K rate, 33% ground ball rate, and a 55% hard hit rate. I know I throw a lot of numbers at you, but they're all good. Just take my word for it. And then you also, I think, have more here to potentially tap into. He produced a 115 this year off the bat. Like that, he's got big time power. I think Ortiz, and I believe he's going to be Rule 5 eligible, if I'm not mistaken. It's another interesting one. I understand he's a first baseman, but if I'm a team that needs a slugging bat, wants to take a shot here, and at least like he can, he's not going to be good in the outfield, but at least you can put him out there and he's not going to trip over himself. Like, yeah, it's like the Ryan Noda type of thing where I'm going to take a shot on him. So
he is Rule 5 eligible, by the way.
Yeah, another player. They got two spots there where I think you got to really consider it. I know we have Ortiz ranked ahead of Cauley, but I think Cauley would be the guy that I'd be more likely to protect just because of the versatility and the value and how he fits into the roster. But I would protect both. I wouldn't want to lose either.
Got you.
Izack Tiger wasn't in the top 15 last time. 7th round pick, 2023, JUCO product out of Butler Community College. Right-hander that, I mean, it's just mid-90s fastball and a sharp slider. Like, that's always going to play. Injuries have limited him, I think, and that's why it's been a little bit harder to assess him at points. And he's also older. I mean, you're looking at a 24-year-old here. He's going to be 25 years old at the start of next season. We didn't get to see him throw a ton, but when we did see him throw this year, it's a fastball that averaged 95 and a plus slider. I think, and a changeup that even looked like it could be a good third pitch. I think this is someone that you now just fast track as a reliever and could be a good reliever if he's healthy. But I think you fast track him as a reliever and he could potentially be, a solid 7th inning guy.
Highest WAR accumulator from Butler Community College in Kansas. Scott Munter, who was taken in the 47th round in 2001, has 0.1 career WAR. So Izack Tiger, bar is high.
He will beat that. I know it, especially with that slider. I mean, he has a great feel for it, 75% strike rate on it, and it's nasty. The fastball slider combination will make him at least a middle reliever.
Cool.
AJ Russell, another unique arm that, Baseball America has him ranked, I think, in the top 6 or 7 potentially in the system. But Russell, 6'6", 225, 2nd round pick. I want to see a little bit more because generated a lot of buzz, dominating out of the bullpen as a freshman. And then I don't know. It seemed like it was hard to figure out exactly what it's going to look like if he's going to stick as a starter. He went down with the torn UCL, went with the internal brace, returned to action, and they kind of were careful with his workload. So we didn't get to see him, throw too much. But I know this is an arm that a lot of people look at and say he can make a huge leap if it all comes together with the frame and the unique release. And it was like a four-seamer slider changeup that he'd kind of mix in there. So this is kind of a wait and see. You want to see, especially with the way that they've been able to develop some of these arms here. Maybe Russell makes a leap this coming year in his first pro season. He didn't make his pro debut last year, but just kind of hard to make much of limited sample, 12 appearances off of the internal brace. But there's definitely a lot to dream on and project here.
Russell and Dreiling just need to be a package going to San Francisco to play for Tony Vitello eventually. Also, you can't spell espresso martini without Kahlua. How about these ads that you're being fed right now? That's awesome.
Our ads are a lot better these days.
Are you on the espresso martini grind?
No, they hurt my stomach so bad.
Yeah, dude.
Because you combine coffee with alcohol, and I'm in shambles. It'll ruin my night.
My brother does them and he loves them, and then my fiance loves them as well. I'm like, this is just a grown-up vodka Red Bull, and I'm out.
Yes,
like
it is a grown-up vodka Red Bull, and they hurt.
What it did to my heart is just not worth it. Like, I would feel like the palpitations on setting with a vodka Red Bull. I was like, I think I'm good on this.
I'm good. I'd rather be tired. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Emiliano Teodo. Stuff is crazy. Command was also crazy in a bad way. Like, I don't really know what to make of his season. He was hurt, so it didn't help. Finished the year strong. He's back in the AFL again. He has thrown pretty well in the AFL, but like he should. If you combine the final, I think 9 or 10 appearances of the regular season and the AFL, he has a 0.75 ERA. Opponents are 3 for whatever against him, which is an 0.81 batting average. But he's also walked 10 in those 12 innings. He walks everybody at this point. And I don't know if it's because of the injury or what it is. It was a 54% strike rate this year, but it's a fastball sinker that's in the upper 90s, touching, eclipsing 100. And it's a devastating slider and a really good changeup, but it doesn't matter if it's not in the zone. And Teodo was someone that we were looking at and saying, this guy could be a closer for the Rangers this coming season. And again, injuries, lack of feel for the strike zone after the injury, but lack of feel for the strike zone preceded the injury too. Just don't really know what to make of him at this point, but he's still a top 10 prospect in the system because you have a 60 fastball and a 70 slider and a 55 changeup.
Yeah. Push him into your bullpen. I make him one of your high leverage arms right now. Like just shut down the starting pitching thing, I think, and pivot to this guy being an 8th inning guy for you as soon as 26.
And they attempted to do that this year off the injury, and just wasn't enough runway to get him going. And he struggled in Round Rock. And so even then, like if he's in the bullpen, it's got to get better command wise. If it does, definitely can be a guy that can be pitching and leverage for you.
Yeah.
Yolfran Castillo was kind of status quo from him at number 9. Good shortstop in terms of the defensive potential. He's 6'3", 170 with a good feel for the barrel, but minimal power. But you can dream on more because he's 6'3", 170. He's a plus runner. So it wasn't, I think, the year that some of the more bullish folks on Castillo were hoping for, as someone that had put up some really impressive numbers in the DSL, but he's still young. And it seemed like it was a bit of an adjustment process for him in the ACL and low A, as it is for so many young players coming from the Dominican. So I think it was just kind of a holding pattern year. And, I think it'll be a big year now going into this coming season in 2026 to see if he can get more acclimated in that second season stateside.
Got you.
Devin Fitz-Gerald might be the guy that I'm most excited about that wasn't, in these rankings before. 2024 5th round pick over slot. His father is the head coach, has long been the head coach at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, which is, one of the powerhouses in the United States in baseball, especially in Florida, that, we've talked about Kobe Mayo, Roman Anthony, Jesus Luzardo, Anthony Rizzo going back. Like, it's crazy. But also Fitzgerald has a brother that played there and is playing professionally. Devin looks like he's going to be even better. Switch hitter with above average hit tool. I don't think he sticks it short, so might move over to second, but it's above average hit. I think at least average power potential. And if he moves over to second, I think he'll be, a solid defender. But switch hitter with the specs that he has already, I think this is one of the more underrated prospects in baseball all of a sudden. He's also in 2025 Bowman Chrome, by the way. But he ran an EV90 this year of 105 miles per hour. I understand it was a 41-game sample, but it was really impressive. He went down with a shoulder injury. He was like laying out for a ball to the backhand and kind of messed that shoulder up, and that shut down his season on July 2nd. He had been making a pretty smooth transition into low A even, but he torched the complex. I love how simple the swing is. I love how advanced the approach is for his age, and the fact that he's already producing EVs, where he's at 19 years old, as kind of just a under the radar guy that wasn't even in the top 15. I think this is a really interesting switch hitting middle infield prospect.
So Devin Fitz-Gerald, just looking at the perfect game profile, this guy ran a 6.73 60-yard dash, which is very good. It's not like top of the scale, but it's clearly pretty good. So 45 runner, you feel like that could tick up to about 55, but obviously that has to do with kind of the, minutia and the jumps and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think definitely could be a guy that maybe turns in average or better run times. And if he's doing that, now you have a much more well-rounded kind of outlook here. 6 homers in 41 games too. Like he's getting into it in the pull side in the air.
The other one that jumps out to me, infield velo on a crow hop, 90 miles an hour. So like this guy, like clearly, has some juice behind the arm too.
Yeah. And it's just, the tools are there, and small sample that we can only work with here, but he was 10 for 22 as a righty. And as a lefty, he was 32 for 116, which is, he turned in a 902 OPS. So as a righty, 993 OPS, as a lefty, 902 OPS. I mean, he walked more than he struck out. And again, those tools, as you alluded to, might be a little bit better than he gets credit for. And I love the operation swing wise. So big fan of his. I hope the shoulder's all good. And, this guy that again, we're talking about breakouts, could definitely be a breakout in the system going into next year.
Love it.
David Davalillo, his brother is a catcher in the Angel system who we talked about. But David, I showed you some video when we were in the press box before one of the Marlins games. I was just like, look at this sweeper. And it was insane. I think he threw a sweeper that got like 24 inches horizontal. He can spin the living crap out of the ball. The fastball isn't great, and it's very dead zoney. Like it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be a very good pitch for him, but he can mask it because he's got a plus sweeper, a plus splitter. That pitch is bizarre as well in a good way. And then an average curveball and cutter. I think Davalillo, he just screams back into the rotation starter that can just kind of kitchen sink assortment offering his way to eating a ton of innings. And he threw plenty of innings this past year.
And this right here is probably their biggest Rule 5 conundrum that you have, because he hasn't thrown in AAA to this point, but he is Rule 5 eligible. So the question is somebody expendable on this 40-man roster for Texas that you can protect Davalillo? I look at immediately guys like Dom Hamill. Like, is Dom Hamill still on this 40-man roster? He's bounced around a little bit. You would assume that you would prefer Davalillo on your 40-man as opposed to Hamill.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It boils down to this for me too. It's the pitchability. He walks 6.7% of batters, struck out 29%. He also gets ground balls, 51% ground ball rate. Opponents hit 189 against him with a 557 OPS. So you have all these data points here where it's like, okay, even if it doesn't fully work out, I don't think you're ever going to regret using a 40-man spot on him, because he could be, like Adam Azier with the Marlins. He could still be an up-down guy for you that justifies the 40-man spot because he's going to make spot starts and survive. I think he's better than that. But at 23 years old, for the entirety of the 2025 or 2026 season, I think there's a lot to like there. And at the very least, like, even though the fastball is not good, he locates it pretty well. And then that splitter, again, it's really unique. Opponents hit 090 against it and 89 at bats with a 59% strikeout rate. And the sweeper, opponents hit 197 against, and he can still sprinkle in some other offerings. So I really like him, as he was a big riser in the system. And I mean, other than this next guy, you could probably say he was the biggest riser in the system, but Caden Scarborough might be the biggest riser in this system. Scarborough is really unique. They took him in the 6th round in 2023, and this was just a huge leap for him. Yeah, kind of your classic multi-sport athlete with a funky delivery that kind of figured it all out this year. And I wouldn't say all, because there's still more to I think, pitch shape, pitch design stuff that he can lean into, but figured it out in terms of how he moves as a pitcher, filling up the zone and seeing that stuff tick up to the mid 90s. He was fantastic this year. I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, but Scarborough, I mean, he had a lat strain that disrupted the first pro season there in 2024. But I mean, this 2025 campaign was really impressive.
Caden Scarborough, 3 starts in Hub City to end the year, which is their high A affiliate. 13 innings, 6 hits, no runs, punched out 19 and walked 2. On the year, in 88 innings, 2.45 ERA, 56 hits against him in 88 innings of work, punched out 114 and walked 21. So just under 12 punch outs per 9 and just over 2 walks per 9.
His final 11 appearances or final 11 starts of the year, a 0.57 ERA between low A and high A. He, in 47 innings, in a third innings, he struck out 58, Scarborough, and walked 8.
That's what I do on Road to the Show.
And he was 19 years old at the start of the season. The fastball command, it's such an advanced feel for a fastball and a breaking ball already. Like the fastball and sweeper already being at a combined nearly, I think it's like 67% strike rate, is nuts. He started to flash a changeup. I have confidence. I'm curious what you think. I have confidence in a guy with a unique release. It's like 5-1 release that extends really well, commands his fastball really well, and was a multi-sport athlete to find that third pitch, whether it's the gyro slider that they teach to so many guys in this system, or finding that more confidence with that splitter changeup. Like when you're that advanced, I feel like there's a good chance that Scarborough is going to find that third pitch this coming year.
I'm not sure about that. I think he might be chalked. There's so much there that just screams like, oh yeah, he'll figure it out. And you always bet on the athlete. You always bet on weird, and you always bet on the athlete. And when a guy does both, you bet on that guy literally all the time.
Yeah, I know you do. That's why you love Brody Hopkins. But what I love with Scarborough is he's already throwing strikes.
Yeah.
That's always going to play. Gavin Fien, this is a first-round pick, 12th overall. Some really like him, in terms of just where he stacked up in this draft class. I like him. I think there's a lot to still kind of sort out. I'm not sure he sticks at short, so that puts some more pressure on the power. And I think the hit tool, at least it's so hard to project amateur hit tool. We talk about that all the time. But to me, from what I saw, I think there's some mechanical changes that need to happen for him to get out from a below average hit tool at this point. Like he starts upright, his hands are high, and then he picks his leg up in tandem with this kind of loud barrel tip. And it's a pretty dramatic barrel tip that like points it all the way towards the shortstop, like as he loads his hands. That's a long way for his barrel to kind of turn back around. Some guys can do that, but when you do that, to get away with it, I think everything else has to be streamlined and connected really well. Yeah. And I think his lower half kind of gets out of the equation, which really makes it hard to turn that barrel over effectively and with as much whip as he needs to get on plane. Like he's heavy on the front side, and I think he kind of falls forward. Like if you watch his swing or his load, as he's loading, he almost straightens his back leg. So he's teetering over his back leg and then falling back forward. With a barrel tip, it's really hard to get on plane. Like that back knee almost locks up on him. So then he's standing up and then falling forward. It causes the head to move more. It makes it a lot harder to stay back. And it makes it a lot harder to get on plane, especially when you barrel tip and you're falling forward. The only thing you can kind of do is push down on the ball. So I think that's going to create a lot of swing and miss and a little bit more ground balls. But who knows? Like as it is with the prep guys, he could have fixed that and be ready to go next year. He put up a lot of impressive stretches on the summer circuit. He has a knack for just being able to barrel the baseball when everything's working and launch some balls in the air. So we'll see. But I think he slides over to third. That puts more pressure on the bat. And I don't love the mechanics.
Trying to close my eyes and see what you're talking about in terms of like how the plane would be exposed, if you were an opposing pitcher, wouldn't you just spam the living crap out of him with upstairs fastballs?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got you.
And then also at the same time, like you do that, then you start to throw sharper stuff down. The barrel is going to kind of get in and out of the zone a little bit more quickly. So, I think that's the common, like sliders, when you have that path, you're just not going to stay on them. And that's a super small sample, but he saw 37 sliders in pro ball and he didn't pick up a hit on any of them. And, swung and missed at a good portion of them. I think if you combine sliders and curveballs, he was 0 for 11. And, again, it's not a huge sample size here, but that's where it's like, if you barrel tip and you're falling forward, you're going to be in and out of the zone. He also kind of steps in the bucket. So it just pulls out the path, but he's young for the class, still 18, won't turn 19 until March. Clearly has just a knack for generating bat speed, even despite the mechanics, and has a knack for finding the barrel despite the mechanics at times. So there's a lot to like there and, dream on, but I think there's a lot that needs to be cleaned up from the team. Number 4, Winston Santos, holding pattern. He's got crazy stuff. I mean, there's no doubting the stuff. And it's just been about staying healthy. Santos is a guy I've been trying to pitch you on for a while, but now, I think when you just the velocity uptick even more so now, like it's loud stuff. I don't even think I saw this kind of velocity coming out. He used to get more vert, but I think he lost some vert in exchange for just sheer velocity. And since he came back, he made a couple appearances in AA and then one in AAA, and then he's made 3 appearances in the AFL. He has averaged 97 miles per hour with his fastball since he's returned. Now, the results haven't been great because there was, I think, a stress reaction in his back. So he's still trying to kind of get the mechanics back in sync and everything. But we're talking about plus heater, plus slider, average changeup. I see the potential for strong number 4 starter, but, also see the potential for a really good reliever.
Yeah. Makes sense. I'm just looking like in 10 and a 30s, walked 9 guys.
I wonder if the back played a part next. In 2024, he walked 7.5% of batters. So I'm hoping that it's more just kind of getting his body.
Lost year, then you come back and recalibrate. Makes sense.
I don't know how a stress reaction in the back affects your mechanics, but I imagine it does.
Yes, surely.
Because in 2024, we had a strike rate of 69.5% between the fastball and slider.
Gotcha.
So that should hopefully come back.
Yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed in the outing we saw from Jose Corniell. In the AFL, you and I watched together. He's still just 22 years old. He did turn in a really good season. And since then, he's actually been better. I think we may have saw the worst one. And it's funny because when we saw him, he still went 4 innings of, I think, 3-run balls, 1 walk, 6 Ks. So, it's good. I still think he's the most underrated arm in this system. Nobody has him in the top 3 or 4, I don't think. And I don't necessarily know why. Corniell averages 96 with the fastball. And this year, he came back. This is coming back off of TJ, by the way, too. He got Tommy John in 2024 and returned in July of this season to rehab and then returned to game action in the second half. And, since then, it's a 3.13 ERA between his return in AA, taste of AAA, and the AFL. 26% strikeout rate, 7% walk rate. It's just a really good field to pitch, especially off of TJ. It's an above average heater. It's a plus sweeper. He's got an average cutter and an average changeup. He screams number 4 starter to me, and I think Corniell could be even a little bit more than that.
Do you remember the certain thing in particular that jumped out about why we were disappointed in Corniell's start?
I'm trying to remember.
Because he was landing strikes. He was totally fine on that front. And you mentioned the line.
Characteristics weren't there.
The characteristics were not good at all. We were looking at the characteristics.
Dead zone fastballs.
Yeah, we were looking at the characteristics, come through in real time, and we were looking at release height, extension, vertical, horizontal, spin. We were looking at everything. And it was like, if I gave you a stock 4-seam fastball, that's what we were getting from Jose Corniell.
That's exactly what it was, which is interesting because now I'm looking at the data from his last outing, and he's throwing fastballs with 20 horizontal and 6 vert. When we were watching, he was trying to throw 4-seamers that were dead zone.
It was 13 and 13.
It was 13 and 13.
It was not good. And then all of a sudden you just found a runny sinker. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe he's getting away from that.
Which is fine because then the 13 and 13 you get away with because you got guys just thinking of everything's running heavy arm side. So I think that gets him back to where you want to be. Because that four seamer it just wasn't good specs wise. But now we're seeing these sinkers that he's mixing in now that are like 15, 16, 17, and then somewhere 20 inches of horizontal. And you think about the horizontal separation that would create from that sweeper. That is disgusting. Now all of a sudden, you've got a much more effective fastball. So I wonder if just some of that's just kind of coming back from TJ and getting used to the ball rolling off his fingers, but maybe there's something to follow there. But I do love seeing that he's mixing in that sinker a little bit more now as well.
Got you.
Number 2 is Alejandro Rosario, and we're just kind of in a holding pattern here because when it comes to stuff, it's one of the better pitching prospects in baseball. It's 3+ pitches. We got a 60 heater, you got a 60 slider, and a 60 changeup. And by the way, he filled up the zone in 2024. He was probably my favorite pitching prospect to watch in 2024. Unfortunately, it came out that he was going to need to undergo Tommy John surgery going into last year. And as of July, the reports were that it was Evan Grant, right? Is it Evan Grant for the Rangers? Had said that he had not undergone Tommy John surgery. And generally, the way it goes, especially with top pitching prospects, is news comes out, this guy's going to need to undergo Tommy John surgery. Then they will announce this guy underwent successful Tommy John surgery. We never got that announcement. And then as of July, it was that he had still not undergone surgery. There's a lot of factors that can contribute to that. And we don't necessarily know what that could be. But as far as we know at this moment, Alejandro Rosario hasn't undergone Tommy John surgery. So that means he's not going to throw unless there's a miraculous UCL heal, which if it's torn, it's not going to happen. This is where we need your fiance to say like, hey, how torn does it have to be, to not be able to heal? Maybe it can. I don't think so though. Because again, they said he had to undergo Tommy John surgery. So we don't really know. There's no updates there. And it's really tough to rank a player like that because on ability, we're talking about one of the better pitching prospects in the game. Yeah. But with the uncertainty and the guarantee that I almost guarantee that he's going to be out next year, you could see the ranking here, but he's not going to be in the top 100 list just because I don't really know what to do. Right. Until we have more information and clarity, I don't know if I can value him as a top 100 prospect because we don't really know when he's going to throw again. And again, hoping for all the best, don't want to speculate on what's going on, but you just know that for whatever reason he hasn't gotten the surgery and you really hope that he can get back on the field as soon as possible. It's that simple.
Yeah. And you mentioned Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News. He reported in July that he hadn't undergone it. And you said, I don't even want to say almost always when a prospect that is a top 5 in the system caliber prospect or top 15 in the system caliber prospect undergoes Tommy John surgery, even if it is unsuccessful and they found something worse, you get a report that they underwent Tommy John surgery, but an issue crept up. Like whether it was successful or unsuccessful, you hear. So the fact that we haven't heard anything would only, based on track record and precedent, lead you to believe that he has not undergone Tommy John surgery. So again, hoping, for the best for him. But honestly, I think you look at a situation like this, and a lot of prospect people would take a peek at Espino, who missed a ton of time. I'm looking at Painter as the better example here. The Andrew Painter who tried the rest and recovery thing. It was delayed for a long time, and then he underwent Tommy John surgery. Painter really didn't budge when we were talking about the Phillies' top prospects and really the top 100 prospects in baseball. I understand with a guy like Rosario keeping him out of the top 100 because Painter was undeniably a top 15 to 20 prospect in baseball.
And you had at least known that he had undergone the surgery.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, he's either trying to recover and then all of a sudden he does undergo it. That he's undergone it. So there are more questions here than what we had with Andrew Painter. But in terms of the wait and then possibly get it delayed, this is the situation that I think closest correlates to Andrew Painter.
Because you don't have 4, I don't even know how many injuries it was, but 3 shoulder surgeries that Espino had to deal with. This would just be one surgery, just waiting for it.
It hasn't happened. Yeah.
It hasn't happened, but he could come back and be perfectly fine because
it's one surgery.
This isn't a myriad of injuries. So that's the good news there. And the second we have clarity there, he's right back in the top 100. I just don't know. So it's hard for me to rank a player as one of the 100 most valuable minor leaguers when we don't even know when he's going to throw again. But I think it is most similar to the Painter situation where, like, yeah, it might be 2 years off, but it's only one surgery that is pretty streamlined. And assuming all things are normal, then he should be one of the best pitching prospects in the game once again. Sebastian Walcott, not a ton new holding pattern. I would say it was a slightly disappointing year, but it feels harsh because he was a teenager in AA. What is cool is, with some of the more data access we have in the AFL, he's even in the couple games he played one game. He played one game. He had 2 hits. In the one game he played, he showed off a plus arm. He turned in above average run times and he put up some impressive EVs. The surface level stats, 751 OPS, if you add that one game in, but if not, it's a 746 OPS. As a 19-year-old, he had just turned 19 in March at the AA level. He got better as the year progressed and finished really strong. Final 20 games, 920 OPS at 355. Good EVs, still trying to figure out how to turn that into game power. We're going to find out if he's going to stick it short. He kind of struggles with the fundamental plays, but then can make some of the crazy highlight reel plays. He sprinted through the finish line. Walcott did. The underlying data is crazy. And then just being able to see some more of the just arm strength and speed specs. Like, this guy's a tooled up monster that still turned in a respectable stat line as a 19-year-old in AA.
Yeah. So a lot of Rangers fans will remember another kid in 2012 whose age 19 season was entirely spent in AA Frisco. And that guy was the top prospect in baseball after that year. What separates Sebastian Walcott's 2025 with Jurickson Profar's 2012? Sebastian Walcott in 2025 played 124 games in Frisco. Profar played 126. Home run total, Profar 14, Walcott 13. RBI total, Walcott 59, Profar 62. In terms of OPS, 741 for Walcott, 820 for Profar. How do we get there? Profar / 281, 368, 452. Walcott / 255, 355, 386. So a lower batting average and a lower slug. Home run totals are very similar, but Jurickson Profar in his age 19 season hit 26 doubles and had 7 triples. Walcott had 19 doubles and 2 triples. Now, granted, Profar only stole 16 bags that year. Walcott stole 32 this year. There are a lot of apples to apples things you can do with 2 19-year-olds in AA. Now, granted, those seasons were 13 years apart, but like, I understand why people want to draw the Walcott to Profar similarity. I don't think it's unfair to draw the Walcott to Profar similarity. And there's a reason, even after, to your point, a slightly disappointing season, he's still a top 5 prospect in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, because there's just so much more in there. I think he is a swing adjustment candidate. Like, I don't think he needs to change anything like crazy, but the path can get so flat that it's causing him to, I think, beat a lot of secondaries into the ground, or sometimes his most powerful swings are resulting in low liners instead of home runs. Like, we always talk about average launch angle on hard hit balls. His average launch angle on hard hit balls was 4 degrees. Ideal would be like 14 degrees, right? Like that's bordering on where you want to be. So think about it. All of the average of his batted balls, 95 plus, are leaving the bat at 4 degrees, which is hard ground balls, low liners. That's going to hold you back. But the biggest leap, and the thing when you draw the Profar, Walcott comparison, of course, Profar higher floor, Walcott higher ceiling. I think Walcott elevated his floor this year by showing that he can cut the strikeout rate down. To cut that strikeout rate down below 20% is pretty remarkable, given his archetype and where he was at for his age. And then on top of that, defensive tools wise, even if he doesn't stick it short, you've got a plus or above average runner with a plus to plus plus arm, who has the ability to, I think, be a really good third baseman. There's a lot to dream on here if he can find a way to get into that game power a little bit more. And why can't he, as he turns 19, turns 20 years old during spring training? I think that's a big thing to watch, because EV 90 of 107 miles per hour as a teenager in AA is remarkable. It's just getting to that power more consistently. It was a 41% hard hit rate, which is good, but based on the EV90s that he's posted, I think it could be closer to 50%. So there's a lot more in the tank, which is really exciting. And I think ultimately when you move him over to third base, maybe that takes a little bit of pressure off of him. But we're talking about potentially 70 game power here. Like, I really do believe that if he can elevate more consistently. So I think all things considered, even though it was a slight disappointment from a statistical output standpoint, like cutting the strikeout rate, walking more, I think were two things that really are encouraging. And by the way, he can already pop 116s. This could be elite power here. When we see a guy like Caminero, that used to put the ball on the ground, and I know his home run output in the minor leagues was way better, but when you see a guy like Caminero really just find a way to elevate a little bit more consistently, I think that's a player that you could be looking at and saying, hey, this is a player that could kind of follow in his footsteps in Walcott.
Yeah.
That'll do it for the Rangers system. We got a lot more on the way as we continue to update them. By the way, top 100 update coming out in the next week or so as well. So keep an eye out for that. Of course, Walcott will be high up on there. And then we'll be breaking down what that end of season update looks like, on the call up and maybe even the Just Baseball show as well. Hope you all have been enjoying the World Series. Got plenty of prospect interviews on the way and a lot more exciting content. Make sure you're following us on all socials for that and stay up to date with that. And make sure you join our Discord. We'd love to have you in there. Best way to support the show. Get an early look at the top 100 update there. I've been sending in some of the toughest decisions I have to make, talking it out with some of the audience and some of our friends, in that Discord. So that's been really fun as well. Plus, it's been really fun just watching the World Series games in the chat on the MLB side as well. As always, thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk prospects with you soon.